Alright, welcome to Unit 7, Lesson 3, Solve Radical Equations. So, radical equations are just two radical expressions set equal to each other, or one radical expression set equal to a non-radical expression. So here are two examples of radical equations, and there are steps we need to follow to solve them. But before I tell you that, I want you to watch me solve these, and I want you to, with your group, after I solve them, explain or try to talk through what I did. So I'm going to go ahead and just solve these, and then I'll prompt you to pause the video and discuss. Alright, go ahead, pause the video now, and talk through what you saw and what you think I did to solve this now. Alright, let's move on to this two steps. There's really only two steps here. Step 1, you want to square both sides. Why do we do that? Well, let's look back here. When I squared both sides over here, I got rid of my radical. Because as we discussed previous lessons, a square root and a squared are like opposites of each other. It's like whenever you take 2 divided by 2, you get 1. So we're just trying to get rid of the square root. So we square the square root, it goes away. We square 3, and we get 9. And then we solved it like normal. And the same thing happens in the second example. We squared this, and we squared that, and that got rid of 2 square roots. And then we would solve it like normal, but we didn't have to solve anything. Our answer was right there. And remember, when you square something, it's not plus or minus. That's only if you take the square root. So step 1, square both sides to get rid of the radical. Step 2, solve like normal. Now, something else you need to realize is that you're only going to square both sides if the variable is underneath a square root. If your variable is not underneath a square root, then you don't need to square it. Because if you do that, that's going to cause you some new problems that we haven't gotten to yet. So only square both sides if you see that it's a square root of x plus something, something times x, something times y, like that. So here are two examples, and I want you to pause the video and work through these two examples with your group. So go ahead, pause the video now. Okay, I'm going to start here with 1. My variable is underneath the square root, so I want to escape it. It's like it's in jail. I'm trying to help it escape from jail, so I throw in a squared. So we break out of jail. So we're left with 3x equals 9 squared is 81. We divide by 3. And we get that x equals 27. Our variable is trapped underneath a square root. So we're going to square both sides to help it escape that square root. So we get 4y equals 2y plus 8. It's a variable with both sides, so remember we want to move the small variable to the bigger side. So we want to move this 2y. So we get 2y equals 8. Then we just solve for y, and we get that y equals 4. Okay, and just 2 more examples for you to try. And I want you to pay close attention here to number 4. There is something you have to do before step 1. So I want you to look at it and think about, what do I need to do before step 1? as you're working through this with your group. So go ahead, pause the video, and work through it now. Alright, so here are the answers to those two examples. And like I said on example 4, there's something we had to do before we squared. And that was we needed to add this plus 8 over here. You cannot square both sides until you get the radical all alone. If the radical is not by itself, as in it's the only thing, there's nothing being added, subtracted, or multiplied or divided to it, you cannot square it. So you have to make sure that your radical is on its own. So go ahead, pause the video, check over this. After you do that, that'll be the end of the video.